Hello and welcome to today's video. My name's Jo Wilson and I'm an artist and an art teacher, and I teach adult art classes in my village, which is Chelsea in South Oxfordshire. Today, in today's video, we're going to be doing a bit of unboxing. You can see I've got some parcels here from some orders that I've made through Vinted. And after we've done the unboxing, we're going to do some swatching of those, and then after that I'm going to do a little bit of a how-to. And what I have ordered are ProMarkers. So that's the first step. I've got a couple of ProMarkers out to show you initially before we open up all of the parcels I've received, and I talk a little bit about that. I have already got some ProMarkers, but as you can see from the swatch, I've got quite a random collection of different colours and different makes. So I've got two different makes currently. I've got the Winsor & Newton ProMarker and I've got the Letraset ProMarker, and both of these are twin tip. So they've got on one end a chisel tip, and on the other end a felt tip, a pointed tip. So that's those. I've got these in my collection. You can see from my swatch of what I've got already that I've got a couple that are drying out. I'm going to find out whether I can actually replace those in there or what you do with those, and I'll let you know at the end of the video what happens with that. But let's go ahead, pop those in my box, and we're going to start. So let's open these to begin with. I've got a littler one underneath, so let's start with the smallest first. These are from Vinted. Vinted is a bit like eBay. You can buy things second hand, or sometimes they're still new. Actually, the shirt I'm wearing is from Vinted as well. From just private individual sellers like on eBay. You can also buy art materials, I've discovered. But I've had a lot of people saying they were a bit unlucky with stuff from Vinted, although this looks very nice, with the things they've received not quite living up to expectation. So I've ordered some stuff on Vinted just to see whether it's worth buying those things. You make quite a significant saving if these items live up to expectation. Let's have a look at these. So this is the first one that I've ordered. These were described as neutral colours. I would call them grayscale, but there we go, just semantics. These were, it cost me about £5 for the pack, and then you pay a sort of a fee, which is like just a buyer protection fee, and you also pay payment and postage and packing. So all in all, these cost me, I think, about £8 once you've put the other bits on. So not a lot for some pretty expensive markers. I've got a little bit of paper here, and I thought as we go along I'll just test that they are actually working. So when I leave feedback, I'll be able to say, actually, you know, they were dead, or they were still pretty good condition. So I'm just going to test them as we go along. That's the black one. Lovely condition. That goes in the box. And you can smell as well that they're quite fresh, I'm going to say, but you know what I mean. Okay, what have we got here? Cool grey one. Yeah, still good. I'll do a proper swatch later. Another one, cool grey 3. These look to be perfect. Oh, I don't know what that was. Sorry. Cool grey 2, I think. And cool grey 4. So they're all good. So the first lot, absolutely brilliant. No trouble at all. Now, let me have a feel around. I'm actually going to open the biggest package underneath first, because the biggest package that I've got here contains a bleed-proof paper pad as well. And as you can see, this is cartridge, this sketchbook. So what's happening is they're all kind of, I don't know if I can zoom in really close, but they're all kind of yeah, bleeding around the edges, so I'm not getting a nice result. Anyway, where should we go? Scissors, I think, are required. Someone's packed well. That's good though. Don't fall them out. And it looks like someone's recycled an old Amazon parcel as well. So this set was a real bargain. A random collection of markers, and also a pad, I hope. Let's see what we got. Yeah. There we go, dump that. So that's the collection, set 1 of ProMarkers. Oh, it looks like you get all of these colours. Still in the original packaging, which is nice. Look at that in a minute. And yet another Amazon parcel. There we go, lovely. And that's the paper. So this is specifically for ProMarkers, and it's bleed proof. So when we do our how-to video, which we'll do at the end, we'll use this pad. Now, what I've learned about this is it has a specific surface to it, which stops the full absorption of the pen into the paper, and that's why it doesn't bleed. So FYI. But that pad, I mean, she said it was damaged, but actually it's just this corner here, and you can see there were originally 50 sheets. I would estimate there's about 30 left there, so that's, I mean, pretty good, because I paid around £8 for this and that, which I think is an absolute bargain. And even if you bung the other bits on, you know, the bioprotection and the post and packing, you still, that is a significant saving on buying that brand new. And all right, some of the sheets are gone, and all right, these might not, you know, have as much ink in as brand new, but they're pretty good, I think. That's a good little bargain. Shall we check that they're working as well? Let's have a look. Ooh. I'll move on there and put them away one by one. Do you know what I'm going to do? Test and do the swatchy bit as we go. So I'm going to do this quick and then speed up the video. Let's go. Bright orange, indigo blue, lime green, sky blue, henna, forest green, cool grey 4, rose pink, ruby, amethyst, black, canary, and the blender. Okay, lovely. They're all working perfectly. So I'm going to just pop on the colours that I've received so far, and then I will come back and unbox the final one. Okay, all done, as you can see, as if by magic. I've put on there in my horrid scrawl the names of all of those colours that I just did. I haven't put those on, I'll put those on in a bit. I also just wanted to say about the make that the ones I've opened so far, both the neutral tones, the grey ones at the top, and the set 1 were all the Winsor & Newton ProMarker. And I think, I can't quite remember because I had a bit of a splurge on Vinted, that the ones in the package below are going to be a different make. Let's just see. So let's pop that to one side and we'll open up our final package. I'm going to use scissors because I don't like tearing things. So far, I've been very happy with my purchases. And I think they're really, sometimes if something's very expensive, it is worth getting it second hand. And all right, the ink might not last as long, but oh yes, it is a different make. But they're still in very good nick. Oh, some loose ones. I'd quite forgotten. Right, chunk out the way. Lovely. Let's see what we've got. Spare bit. Oh yes, I remember her saying there's a couple missing in these sets, and so she's popped in a couple of other ones. So there we are, lots of packets to open here and lots of swatching to do. So I'll open those and then I'll swatch those on here, and then I'll write the names beneath as I did with the previous lot. Okay, let's make a start with the loose ones. Cinnamon, Dusky Pink, and this is the Spring collection. Powder Blue, Buttercup, Leaf Green, Orchid, and the next one, Skin Tones, Cocoa, Satin, Ivory. Oh, that one's the gunky bits on it. And on to the pastels. We've got Pastel Green, Pastel Pink, Pastel Beige, Pastel Blue, Pastel Yellow, and then the next one, Built Environment, Sandstone, Terracotta, Cool Aqua, Cocoa, Ice Grey 3, and the last of the ProMarkers, these are the Brights, Cyan, Magenta, Grass, Yellow, and Black. And one more, the Dusky Pink. Okay, all finished. I'll just get those labelled. Right, so all done. I have written out all of these now, and also just to show you, those ones are Winsor & Newton, these ones are Letraset. Absolutely no difference, I think you agree. And I did forget to mention that the bigger packet that I opened last did cost me more, so it was around £15, and then with the buyer protection and the P&P it brought it close up to 20. But I think all in all, really good bargain for this many new ones. You'd be paying a heck of a lot more. And I think these are all still in very good quality, some of them barely used. The only one that was horrid was the Dusky Pink, which, as I said, had all the sort of gunky bits on it, which was a bit of a shame. But I'll get that cleaned up, so not a problem. And this is my box now, which I think you'll agree is rather nice. So I've got those, and I just need to hoik out. Do you remember my originals? I had two that were a bit dead. So I'll pull those ones out and give that other one a clean. And then when I've done that, we're getting on to the next part of the video, which will be the how to use them. I'm going to get myself something good to draw, which I hope will be a landscape. And I'm going to show you how to create a landscape. Just a quick one of how we use these ProMarker pens. See you in a bit. Right, so we are on the final part of the video where I'll be looking at how these things work and having a little go on the paper that came with one of the bigger packs. And I have, of course, had a bit of a re-go. I could not use the initial swatch chart that I did because it was just very higgledy-piggledy and I couldn't work out what was where. So I have done another swatch chart with the sort of colours in groups, so I can really see how that looks and just see what they're going to come out like. I've also had a look, and obviously there's not a huge amount of green there. So instead of doing a landscape, well, it's almost a landscape, I've decided to do a bit of a seascape from my holiday last year, which was in Galicia in Spain. Lovely part of Spain. And this is a really lovely photo I took there. And lots of sky and lots of sea and a bit of land. But also I just thought the colours are just kind of pastel-y and greyish, and I've got the colours to do that using the chart. So the next thing I did was I worked out what colours from here I'm seeing in here in order to kind of work out what colours I needed. And I've put myself together a bit of a colour palette over here, which I'll just bring into view, and then I'll pop that back again in a minute so you can see what I'm using. So I've gone for a range of warm greys and sort of sandy colours for some of the stones in the foreground of this, down the bottom here, and then I've got a range of blue, powder blues and that kind of thing, and a bit of yellow and blush for the sky, and then I've got an indigo for some of the darker bits, but I'm hoping not to use too much of that, and then I've got the cool greys, because I think the cool greys are right for the sea around here, and then I think a lot, and then I've used the satin because I think a lot of that is going to be satin coloured because it's just almost white, not very far, and then a black because I thought I'll need that. And then what else you need, I've got my photo that I'm using on a little wooden easel that I was given by a friend. Pop those over there. And I've also got a little ruler because for the horizon, and I've got the ProMarker that was the blender one. Gonna buy another one of those, and I've got a Pilot 0.5 fine liner. And so I've got the colours I want, I've done a proper swatch, I've got everything I want. Here's the pad that came with one of the sets. Now you'll see what I've done is I'm using the back of it. That's because it really bleeds through the paper. Look at the back of that. And I don't want that all over my desk. So yeah, so that's that. We are ready to go. What I'm going to do to start with, I'm just going to have a look what's generally there, and I'm going to very roughly just sketch out. I use a technique which I call dots and dashes, which means that you can kind of get it wrong and it doesn't matter because you haven't really committed to a line. And a bit around here, and all I'm really going to plot out is where the rocks and things go, because the rest of it I think is unimportant. This little jetty, and then where it hits the sea, and a bit going off there. Right, and then let's put a bit more detail in. There's a little house at the top here. I can just see a door. I'm just going to very quickly sketch this actually, because we're just having a bit of a play, aren't we? We don't really need it to be absolutely refined. There's something happening about here, possibly a road, don't know. Could be a sandbank actually. It's hard to tell because that photo was obviously taken at dusk. So another little house up here. So it's hard to tell what's what because it's a bit dark, but that's okay. That's quite forgiving then, isn't it, if we do it a bit random, then it doesn't matter if we get it a bit wrong. Anyway, we're just having a play. Bit of that, bit of this. There's a few little mounds in the sea. We don't have to include them all. that's about right on the top. And we'll do the horizon in colour. We don't need that to be drawn in a pen. It won't look right anyway if we did. Some other bits on here on this jetty. And some kind of box. Probably like a fisherman's box or something like that. I don't know. And there's a bit of this and that down here. And little bit of that sticking out here, and a bit of land or rock. I might possibly add a little bit more detail there just because it's in the foreground, and therefore when it's in the foreground we're going to see a bit more detail, aren't we? Things in the background can be a bit vague, but stuff in the foreground, we actually want to know a bit about that, don't we? What's there, what's not there. And we've got some sort of rocks that look like big scales, for want of a better way to describe it, I don't know. Kind of big scales. So there we go, a bit more detail here in the foreground. Very sketchy, that's fine. We're just doing a bit of colouring in now, it's just for fun. So, how to start? I think the best thing to do is get the horizon put in, got a point of reference then, and then we can build other stuff around it. We obviously want it to be horizontal, so about there, I think. Yeah, I think it meets the land about there, and we don't want it to be too wonky. About there. And where that meets that, it is probably blush. Now I'm using the felt tippy end, the pointy end, not the chisel tip, because I'm drawing a line and I want it to be fairly accurate. And other than that, we don't need that. I'm going to pop that in my cups. I've got loads of cups here which I put all my stuff in. All right, so I mean, that's most stuff planned out really. Let's just hit it and have a look. Sky. And then I'm going to work my way down. So let's have a look. I've got a few things, a couple of blues, ice grey, because I felt there were some darker bits in there which I didn't want to do with indigo, because indigo is just like, you can't go back once you've used indigo, it's just too dark. I think I need to, in order to do this as a landscape, invest in some more. And certainly I would use Vinted, because I think this has gone well. So having a look at my colours, I've got powder blue and pastel blue. Pastel blue being almost the paler, I'm going to put in a good amount of that, and I'm going to be using the blender as well. So let's get pastel blue. And there's going to be some blush where the sky is pinkish. I'm then going to use the buttercup for the around the sun and the sun. So to start, I'm going to use chisel tips now. That's going to be probably the only time I use that tip, because I want it to look kind of brushy. And well, you'll see, I'll speed up here because essentially I'm colouring in. If you want more depth, go over your marks. You can layer up these pens and it darkens it, you'll see. Next I've got Ice Grey 3. It was the only ice grey that I got. I'm using those to create drama in those darker parts. I'm using blush here for warmth, the warmth in the sky. And look how it layers over the grey. Got ivory next, across the sky. Be careful not to colour in the sun, because the area around the sun you want to stay kind of white. And now I've got powder blue, And just going over the darker bits there. It's the dark that makes the light work, so it's essential that you have some darker parts and leave some lighter parts. Then I use Buttercup Yellow for the sun. And I heavily use the blending tool around here to spread the colour. And Ivy around the edge of the sun, and then I gently add Buttercup to the clouds. And a bit more blending as well. And there we go. Next bit. We're going to do the sea. So I get my sea colours together. Keep your blender to one side so you know where it is. And for the sea, we're using the blues again, but we're mainly using the cool greys and indigo. I start with the palest one. And you see where the edge of the pad starts to irritate me there, so I decided to remove it a little. So I've got ivory here as well, and then a bit of Buttercup, because what I'm trying to do is reflect the sun onto the water. And you see this, the sea and the sky, it isn't just blue. However, the next thing I do is I blend the powder blue and the satin together at the top there, just reflecting some of the sky on the top of the water. Keeping it light with some more cool grey. It's cool grey 1. And then a bit more powder blue across the sea and into the bay. And then I'm also going to use cool grey 2. That's the pastel blue gone down there. So now cool grey 2. And I'm trying to create that sort of crescent shape of the bay. And then I go up the cool greys to 3. Now I put in the indigo. And then I desperately try and blend it in. Adding cool grey 4, and then I blend again, and that actually really works. Lovely bit of depth just under the blend there. Blend that, and then my blender gets very grubby, and with the grubby blender I do the lovely little bit in the corner. Right, that's that bit done. Now we start at the back with warm grey 4. I start with the darkest one here. I often work pale to light, but not in this one. Don't colour your houses in. Be careful not to colour in bits that need to stay white. And what I like here, the chisel tip creates movement like a brush would. I start with the black, go steady with the black. Often in this part I use the other end of the pen, the pointed tip, and then I blend it straight away. You do need black to create contrast. I'm adding a bit of cinnamon next to add more colour. And I've had some sandstone here for the road and the houses, and then a bit of blush on the houses too. And I move on to the foreground. I'm using warm greys again in the foreground, but I start here with pastel beige. It adds a greenishness to the rocks. and they're paler because they're nearer to us. And then I realised I had missed a bit of sea, so I just colour that in a little bit. And blended. And then when I'm done with that, I've added here warm grey 3 and 4 because I want some of the rocks to kind of stand out. There's a lot of sort of cracks in the rocks. I'm trying to express that. Also adds sandstone there, which adds warmth, and it creates balance, can you see, so that each corner has warmth within it. Just add a little bit of black here. I'm trying to use expressive marks and create depth. And I also add satin and the blender, just trying to create that texture of the rocks. And create depth in that corner too, again for balance, so that we've got some contrast, the land in the background and in the foreground. And here we're doing the jetty finally with some sandstone and satin. And then just going to darken around the edges a little bit. Yeah, I might be happy. I think I am happy. Right, and one final thing. Told you earlier on that I would work out how to clean the ProMarker, and indeed I did. I just used a little bit of tissue paper and a little bit of water and it came straight off, so no problems there. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that unboxing video and a little bit of how-to, and thank you for joining me, and I will hopefully be posting some more videos soon. Thank you very much. Bye.